welcome back to the class, everyone. Galactic Legends are the most powerful characters in the game, as they're consistently good in the majority of game modes. That being said, farming them can be a little intense because of the amount of requirements they have, and there's a lot of mistakes that people make along the way. So, as previously stated, when it comes to choosing a Galactic Legend or farming a Galactic Legend, there are some roadblocks that a lot of players will run into that can not just make their farm less efficient, but can also just make the game less enjoyable. And it being a game, we should be getting enjoyment out of it, whether it's the fact that we're getting a great character at the end of it or that we're enjoying the journey of being efficient playing the resource management game. So one of the things that I want to look at right away are the 5 mistakes that I see a lot of people make when it comes to diving into one of these very large farms, of picking and choosing which requirements to bring up so that they can eventually unlock the Galactic Legend themselves. And the first one that I want to point out, and this one I feel like is more relevant than ever. It's always been relevant, but it's become more relevant with the addition of the Lightspeed bundles, making it a lot easier to get Supreme Leader Kylo Ren as well as Rey, is not finishing your farms. Now, immediately what a lot of people are thinking right now is, okay, Calvin, I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, you have to finish the farm to unlock the character, but Zorii and Maul aren't even requirements for any Galactic Legend. And while that's true, there's something deeper here. Just because you finally unlock the Galactic Legend doesn't mean you should stop farming towards them. What I mean by that is, when you unlock that Galactic Legend, you not only got them and their team, but you also got a slew of other characters while you were doing that. One of the great examples of this is when you get JML, you pretty much get the whole CLS team unlocked in addition. So the reason why we're using Maul and Zorii as examples in finishing your farm is, if you go after Galactic Legend Rey, you get essentially all the Resistance characters, I guess except like 3PO and R2, and Zorii. And the reason why Zorii should be considered a part of the Rey farm and why you need to finish her is because you get Finn, you get Rose, you get the Hero Bros, you get Resistance Trooper, you get Poe Dameron, you get all these characters that are, quite frankly, I guess with the subtracting the bros, most of these characters are just garbage without Zorii. And you put Zorii on a Finn team and you suddenly get back all the value that essentially would have been in vain that you would have had to go after when you were trying to farm up Rey. So Zorii really here in this example represents the fact that when you get done with your Galactic Legend, or maybe even when you're farming your Galactic Legend, you should be looking at what holes are going to be in your roster by the time you're done. If you're going after Sith Eternal, for example, you're going to get 3 really good Imperial Troopers. Once you're done, or even during that, you should really finish the farm by also farming up Dark Trooper. So there are other examples throughout other Galactic Legends, but we're going to leave that as there. A mistake that a lot of people make is not finishing those types of farms. The reason why Maul is here is because just because you unlock the Galactic Legend doesn't mean you have the ideal Galactic Legend team, or quite frankly, even a good Galactic Legend team. By the time you get done with Lord Vader, assuming you haven't worked on a lot of other projects, you don't have Maul and Royal Guard, who are very important factors for the Lord Vader team, at least in 5v5, and those are other characters that you should be prioritizing. I realize Maul is a little bit more difficult as he's a Proving Grounds character, but again, prioritize him. Find out whatever team is beating him, or get his shards, or figure out whatever team is beating his Proving Grounds and beat it every single time, or figure out another way to get his shards and unlock him and be able to unlock the full potential of finishing your farm for Lord Vader. So again, whatever Galactic Legend you're going after, look for the holes that the requirements are making where you're getting half teams and finish them, but also be concerned with putting together the right team for the Galactic Legend and not just putting them with whatever random requirements they come with that really aren't that great. The second big mistake that I see a lot of people make when it comes to going after Galactic Legends is, and we'll call it chasing after the wind. A lot of times people see a character they like, JMK is a great example, and they will just kind of start working on requirements here and there. They'll be like, oh, Qui-Gon Jinn's a requirement, great, I'll do him. Mace is a requirement, I'll do him. Bo-Katan is a requirement, I'll do her. I'll start doing all these hard farms, and that's great as long as you have the potential to get all those characters in a reasonable amount of time. What do I mean by that? What is the point of farming up Bo-Katan and Qui-Gon Jinn on the side if nobody in your guild can even get Watt right now because nobody's geos are built up. Again, not that saying that Qui-Gon Jinn and Bo can't be bad in their own right, but if you're specifically saying you're going after a Galactic Legend and being concerned with all these other farms, when you can't even get all the characters in a reasonable amount of time, maybe you need to realign your focus, look at maybe unlocking another character, whether it be a Galactic Legend or not. The other reason why GK is here is, again, using the same example of JMK. JMK is one of the Galactic Legends that requires Relic 8s, so in a very similar manner, you don't just have to be able to get Watt by having a guild that has a lot of good Geonosians, but on top of that, you actually have to have access to R8, and R8 is pretty accessible now, but there's a lot of players out there that, depending on how low you are and what raids you're associated with, you might not be able to get access to those very easily, or if you are, you might not be able to dedicate them to a Galactic Legend farm. So again, this can be another mistake. Do you have the resources necessary to be able to build everyone up? If you don't, maybe don't even start on the farm in general and find something else that is a little bit more applicable to your roster. Another example of this would be Bad Batch. I realize that Bad Batch are, quite frankly, accessible to everyone. That being said, if you want to get the 4 that are required for Lord Vader, you have to have essentially 1600 Chirotech. And for a lot of people, they have access to the Chirotech, but it's going to take them months to be able to build that up, when again, you should be really looking at the Galactic Legend as a whole and not just as, oh, we'll get some here, we'll get some there, and we'll eventually go after them. You need to be intentional with whether or not you can time the requirements right to be able to get the character in itself. So that would be the second mistake. The third mistake is ignoring your roster. A lot of times when people choose their next Galactic Legend, which one they're going to farm after, they just look around and be like, oh, all right, so Rey is excellent right now. I've got Ben Solo from Conquest. I should just completely go after. She does have a lot of requirements, but all GLs have requirements, so I'll just do it. That may be the right choice, but it's important to know where your roster is at and what you already have geared up, because if you look at every single character that I currently have on screen here, while there's not really a synergy or a team here, they are all requirements for Sith Eternal, and they are all characters that you should really be gearing and relicking up to their needed relic levels just based on their own ability. And with Sith Eternal, they're all requirements. So the likelihood of you accidentally having 10 of Sith Eternal's requirements ready to go is pretty high, because the characters are so useful in a variety of areas. So knowing your roster, being able to pay attention to what requirements have you already worked on, what Galactic Legend are you close to, will help you get a lot of bang for your buck, because at the end of the day, Galactic Legends do not suck. We'll talk on that here pretty quickly, but knowing where your roster is at and what you can go after is very helpful. On top of that, again, another example of this would be, let's say you went after Bad Batch because you love the show, or you like what they can do. They're very versatile in GAC. If you already have them done, you have almost half the Lord Vader farm done. I realize there's more than 8 requirements, but what these guys take in hard node farming and in Chirotech is very extensive. And if you already have that done, you shouldn't exactly ignore that when you're looking for which next Galactic Legend you should farm, because that already has one huge foot in the door to that Galactic Legend. So pay attention. What have you already worked on for whatever reason? You might have done Jedi Anakin for Qui-Gon Jinn and Padme, Darth Vader for a ton of reasons, ship or otherwise, Emperor Palpatine for Starkiller, and then Veers and Pierre, just the most important troopers. And then again, looking at all those and seeing how close you are to the next thing coming up. Next, other big mistake I see a lot of people make, and this really comes back into the enjoyment factor of the game, is ignoring your heart. Most of us, I would say the vast majority of us, are playing this game, yes, because we somewhat like how the mechanics work, but mostly because we are fans of Star Wars. And I understand that there is a question of efficiency. Quite frankly, most of my channel is built on how to be efficient, but you really can't ignore your heart when you see a character that you genuinely love and you're like, yeah, I'm going after JMK, not because he's really great defensively in PvP, but Episode 3 is my favorite film ever. I love the way that Ewan McGregor portrayed him in there. When he says to Anakin or Lord Vader at the very end of the film, "You were like a brother to me," like that means something to me, so I'm going after him. That is a wonderful thing to do. That is not a mistake. The mistake would be ignoring your heart in a form like that. I personally have Lord Vader and JMK here because I'm a big fan of the prequels, and they're really the most, I guess, sentimental to me, if that makes sense. For some other people, it might be Kylo Ren. For a lot of people, I feel like it might be Jedi Master Luke or Leia, having affinity for the original trilogy. But that is one thing that I wouldn't completely throw out. Just because these other things mean you're closer to a certain galactic legend doesn't mean you shouldn't completely ignore it because you want to. And again, it's a game. At the end of the day, you should do what you want. If you want to be efficient, that's great. If you want to have the toy, go after the toy. And last, and I guess kind of least, whatever, is believing that a galactic legend sucks. And I don't hear this nearly as much nowadays, and I think that's nice. Maybe that's progress. But there's the belief that some galactic legends are just terrible, and it's not true. Number one, CG has specifically engineered them to have busted stats so that they legitimately stand ahead above a lot of other characters. I realize that a lot more characters are meeting them in a balancing effort with the introduction of GAC and TW Omicrons, but they're still immensely powerful in a number of game modes. Again, not just because of their abilities, but also because they're just given like ridiculously overcharged stats. And I would challenge a lot of people that just because your JML doesn't do everything that JMK does, or your Lord Vader doesn't hold as well as someone else's Jabba, that doesn't just make this character bad when they might have an overall slightly less value than another character that is currently in the spotlight due to a Datacron or to a new release or something like that. Each galactic legend has things that they specifically are good at. Jedi Master Luke, while he, yes, is the worst defensive holding galactic legend in GAC or TW for that matter, he also has invaluable things, or valuable things, very valuable things for conquest. The fact that he is a tank, he can get voluntary vanguard, and he can help protect a lot of those weaker units that CG is kind of forcing us to go after as feats because they need kills on them. And in addition to that, he can actually call in any light side ally dealing damage based off of his protection. And when they get that kill, that is credited to the character that he's calling in. So again, he's not just a tank or not just a lesser version of Jedi Master Kenobi. He brings something unique to the table. SLKR does a lot of great things. I personally love him offensively in 3v3. He beats everything if you know how to use him correctly. C is very good at soloing things. There are a lot of other characters out there that will struggle to solo a team, a really great team like Gas or Malgus. C himself, while those are lesser teams than a galactic legend, him being able to do that isn't something all of them can do. So again, galactic legends don't suck, and I realize that there can be some buyer's remorse or investment remorse. I'm not really sure what to call it when you're going after them, but I would encourage you to be optimistic about the character that you have. Try to find the ways that they really shine and use them to their best effect. Maybe we do need to be changing mods. Maybe they do need a higher relic level. Maybe they do need new teammates. I wouldn't just completely write them off. So those are going to be the 5 mistakes to avoid. Finish your farm. You have whatever characters you're getting along with the galactic legend probably need a home. Make sure they have it. Don't chase after the wind. If you don't have access to all the requirements needed, maybe you shouldn't even start in the first place. Don't ignore your roster. Do pay attention to what you already have relicked or what you already have farmed up that is already inching you closer to your next galactic legend. Don't ignore your heart. At the end of the day, go after what you want to go after for whatever reason it is. This is a game. You should enjoy it. And don't believe whatever galactic legend you have sucks, because they all have value in one way or the other. Not only because they have specifically busted stats, but they are also unique, each in their own way. That really helps them hold their own. So that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, stay awesome.